Welcome back to the channel. This is Freddy Storm and you are watching third and final part of What If Kid Naruto Was a Jashin God. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
As Kisame swung the bandaged weapon off Naruto's back and knocked him into B, leaving Yugito alone, Naruto's eyes widened. With the assurance that the two Jinchuriki would not use their Biju in the village, Itachi swiftly pursued them. When Kisame swung his blade again, Yugito bent over backwards in a display of her cat-like reflexes and flexibility, just in time to miss by an inch. Kisame then changed the weapon's trajectory and slammed it down onto Yugito, who was unable to move out of the way. As Yugito lay in a crater, slightly dazed, Kisame slowly raised his weapon and let it rest on his shoulder while grinning. Slowly, she turned around and gathered some chakra. She realized that nearly 1/4 of her reserves had disappeared. Despite this, she called out her jutsu and breezed through her hand signs. Fire style. Mouse hairball. She exclaimed, inhaled deeply, and released 3 blue fireballs shaped like mice. Before the flames went out, Kisame grinned and blocked, slightly burning the bandages. Yugito's eyes widened as she realized jutsu were now out of the question until Kisame shimmered and she felt a sharp pain in her neck and was knocked out. Samahata eats chakra. I'm certain you noticed the dip in your reserves. He hefted Yugito and vanished, and Kisame smirked from his position behind her and went to help Itachi collect the other 2 Jinchuriki. Itachi let out a sigh and used his ninjutsu to block another sword strike from Naruto. Naruto was smiling despite the circumstances because he loved violence in all its forms and he knew that this fight would turn violent if he had anything to say about it. He then had to duck as B swung one of his blades with a cry of, "Wee." Itachi performed a few hand gestures before coolly calling out his jutsu. Fire style. Grand fireball technique. And precisely as the jutsu name implied, Itachi shot a big ball of fierce flames out of his mouth in the direction of the 2 Jinchuriki. While B dove to the side and made hand signals and Naruto yelled out as the ball hit him, B launched his jutsu because Itachi was preoccupied with Naruto's yells. Naruto held his ground. Lightning style. Electromagnetic murder. Itachi called out another jutsu as a dense stream of numerous lightning bolts surged towards him. Seeing the approaching jutsu, he ran through more hand signals. Wind style. Great breakthrough. Naruto jumped out of his earlier technique as the plan he and B had made, when B recognized the fire jutsu, failed to work, as the jutsu battled with the lightning and won out, fanning the flames of his earlier technique. Without delay, Naruto pipped his thumb and scribbled down his order to release. Massacre, then Jashin. Sama's blade swung and sucked in the blood. The shift had happened instantly as some debris began to rise off the ground due to the pressure. Naruto was wearing his mask, ribcage, and cloak of bone armor once more. With his naginata aimed directly at Itachi, he released a powerful burst of chakra at the blade's base while yelling, "Pressure spear." He hurriedly applied more pressure than was safe, sending the blade hurtling toward Itachi before his Sharingan could have a chance to see it and stabbing him in the abdomen. He vanished in a murder of crows, causing Naruto to utter a string of obscenities that would make Hidan wince. When Itachi emerged from behind a bee and stabbed him in the arm, the bee's back sprouted an octopus leg, which Itachi had to dodge with a whip. Itachi attempted to avoid the mini Bijudama that B launched as he transitioned into his Biju cloak stage 1, but it still broke his left arm in 3 places. In order to preserve his chakra, B deactivated and assumed his Kenjutsu stance. Meanwhile, Naruto swung his naginata towards Itachi, letting the blade swing out with the chain, only to have Kisame's scaled blade block it. When B realized that Yugito had been defeated, his eyes grew wide. He attacked the man who had the audacity to hurt his adopted sister, but Itachi knocked him out in the process. Naruto winced because, despite his strength, he was not strong enough to defeat the tailless Biju Hoshigaki Kisame and the clan slayer Uchiha Itachi. In a desperate attempt to create a smokescreen, Naruto fired ballast at their feet. Then, using Sonito, he kicked both of them in the chin, just like a green clad genin, sending them flying. Naruto then cut his palm, focused his chakra, took aim, and let out a scream. Gran Rei Sero. The entire village heard 2 counts of shit, and as Anbu, Junin, and Shunin advanced toward the blast zone, a massive red beam that could be seen for miles in the sky burst, terrifying everyone with screams of fear. Breathing heavily, Naruto expended nearly all of his reserves in that attack. He exerted as much control as possible to ensure that it exploded solely in the sky, and fortunately, it only scorched the majority of the forest where the battle had moved. After hearing applause from behind him and noticing Itachi and Kisame were unharmed, Naruto managed to stammer out a question before his resurrection form vanished. How? Itachi gave a monotone, genjutsu, in response before shimmering and giving him a neck chop that knocked him out. When a pair of kunai emerged from the tree line, the two's forms crumpled to dust and then transformed into those of two dead men. 3 of the 4 Nei Anbu took hold of the Jinchuriki and vanished in wisps of smoke. Outside of Konoha in a forest, 2 figures sat in contemplation, their hands clasped in a seal of a ram, dressed in red clouds and black cloaks. Hoshigaki Kisame and Uchiha Itachi were visible to the two as they looked up, and Kisame gave a small growl. Seems our informant betrayed us, leader. Sama is gonna be pissed. You think we should go get a drink before we report in? For once, Kisame, I agree. You know, Itachi, it was very unbecoming of you to yell shit like you did. Kisame, the nature of the genjutsu I used was to make the target see us only displaced by a few feet or yards depending on the distance away from us that they are. So when we were somehow kicked into the sky, the genjutsu made us seem much further out, so we would have been safe from a few wide-scale jutsu. Unfortunately, we miscalculated the power of Naruto Kun's jutsu. Now let's get that drink. Underground location. After a day. Slowly turning, Naruto saw that he was in a dark cell with chains securing him to the wall. When he looked in the mirror, he saw that he was nude and that he smelled like he had just had sex. Upon closer examination, he also detected traces of cum and other feminine scents. Knowing that he had been used as a breeder recently, if the scent was any indication, he growled. When he turned to look around, he saw that Yugito and B were both chained in the same room and that he was the only one who had been used up to that point because they were still wearing clothes. He called out to his lord Jashin after becoming somewhat calmer. Jashin. Sama, what took place with me? He was not prepared for the voice he heard in return. Shut the fuck up, you brat. You have been cut off from your god, due to your captors placing the mark of Kami on your chains. Fortunately, I managed to kill almost all of the sperm you released, because I underestimated the Uzumaki blood which made your sperm very potent. And now there is the chance you will have a bastard child with one of the women that annoying Danzo sent to get impregnated. Naruto winced, realizing that although the mother can have his support but not his love, he would have to keep the woman and the child safe and not kill the one thing he truly wanted, a family of his own. He let out a sigh, sensing that Anko would lose it over this, and he could almost feel the tension making his hair go gray. Naruto smirked as he turned to face the sharp rock on the wall to his right. He wrapped the clamp around his wrist so that it was close to the rock, and then he drew the symbol of his faith, the kanji for blessing and evil, next to the rock by scraping the clamp against it. He smirked as he used the slightly duller rock to cut his index finger and write the command on the floor, feeling a tiny tingle in the back of his head that told him his lord was with him. Massacre, Jashin. Sen. Naruto heard someone approaching and decided to wait to see if the newcomer would cause any trouble before calling his blade to him. Danzo and the 3 men, who were only wearing boxers, could only smile. As the group made their way to Yugito, he stopped smiling because he knew what would happen next. He instantly summoned his blade, flared his ki, and absorbed the blood with a swipe over his command. The group leapt and turned to face Naruto, who had just broken free from his chains. He was brandishing his naginata, glaring at the group while concentrating his ki, and he was in his resurrection form. The men were all trembling. 2 had become completely incapacitated. The final man had begun to beseech Amaterasu for protection. With a sly smile, Naruto hurled a bala at the man and proceeded to decapitate the other 2 with ease, leaving Danzo by himself. Naruto trailed off as the ki increased, thinking of how Danzo threatened his team and Anko. And then there was one. It seems as though you were planning to do something with her. Normally I would just sacrifice you, but considering that you seem to have a thing for pissing me off. Even though he was somewhat of a homicidal maniac, he still had compassion. That's why his lord had made him his reaper, not because he was a murderous monster, nor because he felt only bad feelings, but rather because he still had compassion left in him. Because he was lost in thought, Naruto was unaware that the other 2 Jinchuriki had awoken. Yugito was particularly aware of the 3 dead, half-naked men and realized that, if Naruto hadn't saved her, she would have probably been raped. In addition, B had noticed the stains and had turned to face the location of the broken chains. He knew that they had previously used Naruto at least once. He winced, realizing that there wasn't much they could do right now to address the situation. Naruto appeared to have devised a strategy. Danzo's brain was searching for a way out at a speed of 500 miles per hour. Naruto managed to shred his implanted arm, preventing him from using Izanagi while he was still recovering. Given that Naruto was harboring two other entities, he was aware that Shisui's eye would not function. Other than using his reverse four-symbol sealing technique, he had no other options. Breaking out of his reverie, Naruto grinned at Danzo, who began to perspire a little. With each strike, Naruto used Sonito to peer ahead of Danzo and quickly used it to play pinball with him. When Naruto finally had enough, he choked the old bastard and used the tip of his naginata to slowly and jaggedly cut Danzo's left arm. He let go of Danzo and swallowed the blood, glaring at the elder man as he went into ritual mode. Naruto didn't notice the kanji on his forehead this time, though, as he stabbed himself in his hollow hole. When Danzo felt a wave of hopelessness and depression, he reached for his hidden knife and stabbed himself, only to feel even more pain and despair. He then looked to where his heart was and saw an empty pit growing into a hole the size of his fist. When he attempted to inquire about what Naruto had done to him, his throat caught fire and he gasped incoherently. It was then that he realized he had been screaming the entire time. Danzo proceeded to repeatedly stab the hole in the hopes that the pain would cause him to pass out or, ideally, die. With a menacing chuckle, Naruto whispered the name of his jutsu, which Yugito could only hear with her cat-like senses. Hollow Suicide seemed a fitting moniker for the jutsu's effect, as Yugito could feel the hollowness evaporating from the elderly man who was still attempting suicide. After observing for a little while longer, Naruto appeared to nod in agreement. The man looked up, his confused expression soon giving way to a desperately crazed one. "Congratulations, Danzo, as you are going to be my first victim to fall to my new technique." With the blade pointing upward, Naruto drove the naginata into the earth and extended his right hand as though grasping something. Then, as he focused, his chakra flared into his hand, revealing a bone-looking sword with a bony handle. If you've played Skyrim, picture a dragonbone sword with a bone handle instead of the metal one. Naruto grinned as he swung the sword toward a wall, and it transformed into a whip sword, severing the wall. Naruto smiled and gently reprimanded Danzo while allowing the blade to reform. The elderly, crippled, and vile man had already returned to stabbing himself in the heart and failing miserably, so he was unaware of the priest's approach. Naruto swung the sword whip, wrapped it around Danzo, and pulled while adding fire chakra. "Goodbye, Danzo." Danzo sat motionless before exploding into embers on the ground. The two heard two screams and some dull thuds as Naruto approached the Kumo Nin, cut their chains, and left the room. When the 8 and 2 tailed Jinchuriki left the room, they saw Naruto searching through some boxes, finding his belongings, and turning off his Jashin mode. Yugito gasped, and B moaned as they saw Naruto in all of his nude glory. B was sweating from her reaction to the naked man in front of them as Yugito was staring and beginning to drool. Yugito struck B over the head, making a noticeable tick mark on her forehead, saying, "Don't be strippin' when there are fools a-trippin', yeah. Be quiet, B, if you have forgotten, and I bet you did, we're in enemy territory. Not to mention if we don't return soon Hokage Sama might get pissed, and when Hokage Sama gets pissed things break, and when things break people get upset. When people of Konoha get upset at the leader of another country war gets started, and when war is started more countries get involved. And when more countries get involved the death toll increases. Let's not make the death toll increase." B sighed and kicked Yugito in the ass or hiss at him once more. Naruto perspired at the awful rapping as he dressed and gathered his weapons. "Yugito, you were starting to sound like Omoi. Don't play your words like a little toy. Yo." A compressed ball of air shot him back into the hallway as he was retrieving a scroll and heading back into the cell to lock Danzo's remains away. With a growl in the back of his throat, Naruto gave himself a mental kick for assuming Danzo would be so simple to take out. While Yugito extended her nails into long claws, Naruto took out his Zanpakuto and B gathered his 7 blades, adopting their respective Kenjutsu stances. Danzo emerged from the cell with his bandages removed to reveal a white blind eye and a prosthetic metal limb in place of his arm rather than a large hole in his chest. The three Jinchuriki hosts came to the conclusion that the elder had unsealed the prosthetic arm from somewhere on his person and performed some bizarre revival shit with the eye. Sensing the root Anbu nearby, Naruto subtly motioned for B and Yugito to step aside, asking them to handle the Anbu should they become a problem. Naruto, who has never shown much respect for his elders, cracked his neck and prepared to kill an elder. He did so with great pleasure. Konoha, office of the Hokage. As they awaited word on the missing Jinchuriki situation, Hiruzen and the Raikage engaged in a heated starring contest, creating a tense atmosphere in the Hokage's office. Abruptly, a bowed head Anbu figure appeared in the office. Hokage. Sama, Raikage. Sama, our squads have detected a surge of chakra resembling Uzumaki's release. Even if we are to be joined with Anbu, we are still fighting people who can take on 3 Jinchuriki, not to mention one of them has full control of their Biju. Lead us to the signal, Raikage. Dono. I hope you don't mind coming along. And the other has the powers of a demonic god at his disposal. The 2 cage-level shinobi vanished in body flickers and followed the Anbu squads to the location, only to feel an explosion of chakra and a loud yell of pain. The Raikage nodded, indicating his approval of the action. Later, the 2 cages found themselves in front of an underground chamber with the majority of the roof destroyed, where a gathering of 100 root Anbu were bending down in front of a once again nude Naruto who was missing only his eye patch and the metal headband that had been attached to his right arm but had since melted and fused into it. Just a moment ago. Standing a few yards away from a kneeling Danzo, Naruto was in his ritual mode, and both shinobi bore ragged gashes in eerily similar places across their bodies. Danzo had taken a specific pill and swallowed it fast while Naruto was standing in his circle and yawning. As Danzo's body began to heat up and boil, the old man used hand signals and let out one last jutsu before Naruto narrowed his eyes. Blood-body connection jutsu. Danzo let out a painful scream as a massive chakra explosion caused the building's roof to blast outward. Then, like Danzo, Naruto's body began to heat up, and he began to moan and breathe heavily. With the exception of his burning headband and eye patch, all of his clothing burned away. Yugito turned away, believing Naruto was experiencing excruciating agony rather than the genuine joy he was experiencing. Danzo got up and charged at Naruto, slamming his palm down on his headband and holding it there as it fused into his body, but Naruto was too preoccupied to notice. Before Danzo the War Hawk, the elder of Konoha, took his suicide pill and died, he said, "Now. You belong to Konoha, forever." Then, as B and Yugito assumed a fighting stance, the hidden root Anbu emerged from hiding, many of them brandishing weapons. Then 10 Anbu, each bearing a captain's mark, approached Naruto and bowed, with one speaking on behalf of the others. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized the implications of an army of emotionless Anbu-level shinobi under his command. Naruto. Sama, as you are the one to defeat Danzo. Sama, you are our new head of command as you are still loyal to Konoha as Danzo. Sama wished for his successor. We are the roots that grow in the dark so that the great tree of Konoha can grow and prosper in the sunlight. One day after the 3 Jinchuriki vanished, the Anbu squads and the 2 cages discovered this scene. Unnoticed by everyone, a purple-haired Neko masked Anbu was gazing at Naruto's package and pondered whether her friend, who loved dango, would be open to sharing. The Anbu member was hospitalized the following day after being struck by dango sticks that were thrown into her body, rendering her unconscious. Naruto saw Hiruzen and the Raikage and gave them a sly wave while gesturing to the elder cage. It appears that I am in control of the entire root Anbu. The elderly man sighed, nodding at his good fortune before realizing that Naruto was clearly superior to Junin in order to defeat Danzo in spite of his handicap of being shackled. Next, Hiruzen observed as Naruto peered down at his masculinity and squinted his eyes before approaching one of the noticeable captains and inquiring as to the whereabouts of the women who were to be impregnated. When Hiruzen realized what Danzo was doing, his eyes widened. He waved for his Anbu to clear the area and followed Naruto inside, with the Raikage and his 2 adopted siblings trailing behind the Hokage. Naruto was aware that he was being followed, but he didn't give a damn because the 2 groups he was being followed by were 2 Kage, 2 Jinchuki, and 2 Leaf Anbu. The group then entered a sizable infirmary, where 6 women were seated on beds. Of them, 5 appeared somewhat relieved, while the 6th appeared anxious. Jashin was indicating to Naruto which person was under stress. When the woman saw him coming, Naruto became frightened and made a shushing motion with his hands, only to realize that the shackles were still on and that the metal had melted solid around his ankles and wrists. As Anko would make fun of the new accessories on his arms and legs, Naruto would sigh. Returning his attention to the current issue, he motioned to the Anbu captain and signed for Yamanaka to be sent to him. A man with strawberry blonde hair was kneeling in front of him a minute later. Naruto introduced himself to the man by signing. Shino mentioned Aburame Torun in passing, and Naruto narrowed his eyes at the mention. Naruto. Sama, my name is Yamanaka Fu. I was one of Danzo Sama's personal guards along with Aburame Torun. I want to tell this woman what's going to happen. Can you project my thoughts onto her? With one hand on Naruto's head and the other on the woman's, Fu said, right away Naruto. Sama, mind-body transmission jutsu, which enabled Naruto to communicate with her telepathically. Hello, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. You may or may not be aware that you are the only woman here who will conceive. The woman gave a nod, indicating that she was aware of this and that she was ready to pass away. Informing you that you will have everything you need, 2 Root Anbu will watch over you and help you to make sure you and the child are comfortable. If you decide not to raise the child, I will take him, her and raise him, her myself, possibly with my girlfriend. If you decide to raise the child, you can and I will visit and give the child a father, but I won't be giving you a relationship. I will use Danzo's funds as his successor to make sure you live comfortably. I want you to go house hunting and find one close to the hospital and the Hokage's tower. The woman appeared at ease at his remarks. At this point, I would like the name of my child's mother. Uchiha Izuna, little sister too. Izuna sobbed and choked, unable to even pronounce the name of her older brother. Naruto was followed by a Root Anbu who hurried forward and gave Izuna a hug. Naruto recognized the woman from her laid-back demeanor and knew they were acquainted. In order to attract the attention of the Root Anbu, Naruto gestured to him by clearing his throat. Since it appears that you two are acquainted, I'll assign you and a reliable person to assist her until the child turns 3. The Anbu gave a nod and led Izuna to gather her belongings and locate a place to live. The elderly man sighed as Naruto turned and approached the Hokage, grinning. Naruto stopped in his tracks and narrowed his eyes. Okay, let's head back to my office and debrief you on everything that has happened. I want Fu here to join us as reading hand signs all of the time is rather annoying. Then, after making some signs and gesturing for an ANBU, the Anbu body flickered off to complete his mission. The office of Hokage. After hearing the report from the 3 Jinchuriki, the 2 cages sat in silence. Hiruzen sighed and turned to face Naruto. Because the chains were blessed by Jashin and Kami, Naruto had to slightly alter his outfit. Fortunately, the chains were short, and the link that was fastened to the wall was not blessed. Naruto was still wearing his eye patch and sash as well as his haori. He was now wearing very dark gray shorts without any footgear that reached his calves and were secured to his feet with gray medical tape. Seals were applied to the tape on his feet, making them cushioned for silent walking but tough as stones. His right arm had the identical seals applied in a similar manner from the shoulder down, with the exception of his Konoha plate, which ends at his wrists. This was because Danzo's suicide pill had left his skin scarred and bubbly. Naruto leapt up at this, saying, "It is obvious to me that Naruto can no longer participate in the Chunin exams." Hiruzen then gestured placatingly with his hands, and Naruto sat down once more. Naruto smirked as B and Yugito congratulated him until Hiruzen cleared his throat. As I was saying, Naruto can no longer be in the exams as I have seen fit to promote him to Junin and commander of the newly reinstated Root Anbu. Naruto waited until he realized that this was a question about whether he wanted the people in the office to know about his parents. Now, I have some news for Naruto on his heritage that I have had to keep from him. Naruto, your parents are an S-class secret that you may or may not release into the public. With a nod, Naruto informed the senior Sarutobi of his response. Your mother was an S-rank Kunoichi who was given the moniker the Red Death. In her time in our academy she was known as the Red Hot-Blooded Habanero because of her infamous temper and long red hair. Her name was Uzumaki Kushina. Your father was another S-rank shinobi and was given the flee on sight order from Iwa. His own moniker was the Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato, the 4th Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. Just know that they loved you with everything, Naruto. You also have living godparents who I'm rather upset with. Senju Tsunade and Jiraiya, both my students and members of the legendary Sannin, Tsunade left a few months before you were born and Jiraiya couldn't bear to look at you due to your resemblance to Minato. These are the reasons I had to wait before you had Junin rank before telling you, otherwise some of the council members on the civilian side might try to pull some political maneuvers to get hold of your inheritance. After sitting there in shock for a moment, Naruto realized that he was now the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan's current head. In addition, his child's mother is a Uchiha and older than Sasuke, meaning that at the time she held the position of clan head. As a result, his child is the new heir apparent, at least until Sasuke reaches adulthood or a higher rank, unless he perishes on a mission or turns renegade. Naruto smiled, realizing that Yari had made him study politics for no apparent reason, and that this gave him political power. Now, he was grateful for the 10 hours of monotony he endured every day for 3 months, until he was familiar with every tactic and dirty trick in the book. The only issue Naruto has is that he can't talk, but he is working on a project to address that. Naruto, there is also the issue of Izuna, as she claimed to be a Uchiha, but we have no Uchihas by the name of Izuna in our books. It might be because Danzo had Uchiha in his ranks to have a child before the massacre, but I don't think this is so, as some of the rude Anbu that followed you seemed surprised when she claimed to be a Uchiha. I think it's because of the fact you claimed to want the child she felt protected enough to reveal her clan affiliation. While the Kumo party headed to their hotel, the Sarutobi dismissed Naruto, who then set out to find Anko's residence. When Naruto knocked on the door, a muffled call to come in was heard. When Naruto opened the door, he went into the apartment and went into the living room, but Anko wasn't there. He turned to look in her bedroom, but a blur tackled him, forcing him to give her a desperate kiss and causing tears to fall down his cheeks. She managed to cry in between kisses, "Naruto-kun." Naruto recognized Anko right away because she appeared to be in disarray. She was wearing an old shirt and panties, but the shirt was wrinkled and stained with tears, and her hair was knotted and tangled. Her bags under her eyes indicated that she had not gotten enough sleep. After picking her up and escorting her to her room, Naruto placed her head in his lap, caressed her hair, and worked his way out of any knots. They remained motionless for the duration of the night until she nodded off, at which point he tucked her in and fell asleep beside her. Naruto cried anime tears when he woke up the following morning and smelled bacon because he couldn't taste it until he swallowed his meal. As he left, he noticed Anko preparing eggs, bacon, and toast for breakfast in his brand new shirt and underwear. With his chin resting on her shoulder, Naruto came up behind her and hugged her. Naruto shushed her, putting a finger to her lips. "Hey Naruto-kun, sorry about last night. I was just a wreck." And that's when she saw the plate metal with the etched leaf on it and the chains around his arms and legs. "What happened to you, Naruto-kun?" Naruto asked, sighing, using his hand signals to summarize what had happened. Anko practically gave him the order to take her to meet this woman because he was a little offended by the woman who had Naruto's child. After calming her down and telling her to go to the dango shop, Naruto met with Yari, who he discovered had been at the T&I facility prior to the attack, and promised to bring Izuna there. Yari's flat. Naruto shook his head slightly at his sensei's attitude and headed through the hallway and into the living room, raising an eyebrow at what he saw. "Naruto, get your mute ass over here. Or do I have to fuck you up?" His sensei was naked, covered in cuts and bruises, and strapped into some strange apparatus. The older priest sighed at his nephew figure, who was laughing at his expense, and Naruto just burst out laughing at him, asking, "Well, are you gonna stand there stroking your fucking dick like a fag, or are you gonna take me down?" After gaining control of himself, Naruto untied the man and gestured. "What was that the fuck of?" "That was my fiancé being summoned for a sudden mission in the middle of our rituals." Naruto recalled their initial encounter with Yari's fiancé. Since they were in Earth's territory, it was foolish of them to consider Naruto's ancestry. Since Naruto had not yet become Jashin's Reaper, they were searching for a shrine in the mountains where they could pray and maintain their connection to Jashin. They saw a woman sketching kanji in her blood on a nearby cliff platform as they were leaving a cave. To interrogate her and perhaps offer her as a sacrifice to Jashin, the two descended. Yari and Naruto sensed a tingle as they approached, indicating that the woman was a Jashinist. They discovered that she was opening the shrine that the Iwa shinobi had sealed due to complaints from mountain residents. Like many others, the woman went by Hikari and didn't have a last name. Before being offered as a sacrifice to a demonic lord by the woman in question, most men and women would only see her gorgeous smile, long and straight brown hair, and gray eyes. She usually wore light armor underneath her cream colored kimono because she wasn't as tuned in to Jashin as most people were. That was the original reason she was going to the shrine. She had promised to help him get closer to Jashin, and eventually the two got engaged. She then left for Konoha, allowing him to devote the remainder of the journey to training Naruto. While Naruto reminisced, Yari was getting dressed, and when he was finished, he clapped once to attract Naruto's attention. Naruto shot a sharp glance at Yari, who had the grace to look embarrassed as he recalled being bound in that device. Now I was going to ask you sooner, but you decided playing captive was much more fun. Naruto nodded, understanding that a Jashinist gets married by amputating the bride and groom's ring finger and drinking the blood of the missing digit. If Jashin approves, the two will become stronger and closer to their lord. Anyway, I was going to ask you to wed us as you are technically the head priest of Jashin and we have asked around. The only other person willing to wed us in a basic wedding is the old man. We're doing that wedding, but that is for the official marriage which I also want you to attend. If he disapproves, he will either destroy their means of subsistence, expel them, or order the other priest to pursue the two. Naruto concurred, saying that since the priest presiding over the ceremony must pray for Jashin to bless their marriage and because he frequently speaks with their lord Face. 2. Face, there shouldn't be any issues. After introducing Izuna to Anko and letting the girls mingle, Naruto left the apartment in search of Izuna, hoping for the best. After a while, he noticed Izuna strolling down the street with two people, a pale, stoic boy who appeared to be around 12 years old, carrying a large number of shopping bags, and a stoic black-haired woman who Naruto identified as the Anbu he had placed in charge of Izuna. When Naruto approached them at the corner, the two of them simultaneously bowed their heads and said, "Naruto." Sama and Izuna greeted him. After Naruto made some signs that the boy, identifying himself as Sai, translated, the group was now outside the Dango store. Sai was asked by Naruto to assure her that Anko wouldn't hurt her as a result. Ideally. With the sound of Anko screaming at her to share, a purple-haired woman flew through the wall. Naruto then wished for Anko's composure and that everything would go smoothly. With luck. Konoha, tea store. When it came to dancing, getting even with a certain pasty-ass bitch named Orochimaru, or even just showing off her newfound affection, Anko Mitarashi was a woman not to be trifled with. Naruto Uzumaki. She was aware that he had forced another woman to become pregnant, but she didn't mind because that had happened before in history. The woman being protected by said man, or vice versa, is something that doesn't happen as frequently. She was a little irritated, but she was also relieved that Naruto was merciless enough to kill the woman or just the child. But Anko went a bit too far and sent Yugo to the hospital after she was knocked unconscious by several dango sticks after her friend Yugo asked why Anko was withholding information about Naruto and made a joke about wanting to see about having some fun with her and Naruto. This is the scene that was entered by Naruto, Izuna, Sai, and the other woman who would later go by the name Yachiru. Anko turned to face Naruto and glomped him right away. The glomping continued for 10 minutes while Naruto sulkily savored Anko's pillows of suffocation, without actually having to worry about being suffocated. Anko finally let go and realized Naruto was acting normally, which prevented her from pouting. Naruto was secretly relieved that he had managed to halt the bleeding from his nose in time. Yachiru was signaled by Naruto to speak on his behalf. Anko. San, this is Uchiha Izuna, the woman currently holding Naruto. Sama's child. Izuna flinched at the mention of one of Konoha's founders, but only Naruto and Sai noticed. Wait, Uchiha? As in the nearly extinct clan of pompous assholes who were slaughtered by their greatest prodigy since Uchiha Madara. Izuna asked. Yes, Anko. San. Hey. Why does Naruto-kun get to be a Sama, and I only get a San? Because Naruto. Sama is our leader. Well, I'm his girlfriend, so ha. I get a Sama. Just out of my connection, not to mention my awesomeness alone should have gotten a Sama from everyone. Izuna stepped forward and bowed to Anko, saying, Anko. San, as I was saying, this woman is of Uchiha descent as she has shown her Kekkei Genkai the Sharingan. It is nice to meet you, Anko. San. I hope we can come to be friends in the future. The only person who saw her hand slinking toward her kunai pouch was Naruto, who made a small movement to get in the way of her attempts to kill Izuna. Yeah. Friends. Only to come to an end when she got out. A condom box? She also produced a kunai and said, but next time you should have these on hand. But if you try to take my man, I will skin you alive and sew your shit up, then lock you in a secret dungeon where no one will find you except for me, and only to give you some food and water. Then I will torture you for the rest of your natural life. She then glanced at Naruto. She gave Naruto a menacing look as she gazed off into the distance with her trusted kunai, saying, and if you cheat on me for her. Suddenly emerging from her trance, Anko grasped Izuna's wrist. Yachiru followed her as she dragged Izuna out of the store, calling out, come Izuna, we have baby shopping to do. Sai didn't follow until Naruto gave him instructions to make sure Anko and Izuna didn't kill each other. With a quiet giggle, he also gave Sai a sealing scroll so she could finish her shopping. He shook his head, amused by Anko's abrupt transformation from menacing to jovial, and proceeded to consume his lunch. Later on in the month, Naruto sighed, realizing he had a ton of paperwork to complete. This could happen so much more quickly if only he knew about the shadow clone jutsu. Well, it was too late to moan. He had work to do. He was in his underground base right now, which he had inherited from Danzo. He had taken the opportunity to make renovations and go over all of the classified SS class information that wasn't supposed to be public. The Uchiha family was intriguing, particularly Itachi, who was unsure of his ability to make it appear as though Danzo had coerced Itachi into doing what he did. Shaking his head, Naruto decided that it was not the right moment to think about that since he was currently reviewing the notes for a project he had some Yamanakas working on. Sadly, they had encountered a difficulty, and the prototype would not be ready to use for another month. He perused an additional document containing the agreement for one of the 5 sealing specialists, since Jiraiya, his godfather, was the only master known to be alive. He received his sealed bandage wraps from one of the seal experts, the only one of them who was present en route. After going through a few more papers, he noticed something that made him stop. The original Anbu outfit. For the men, it was a little too gay, and for the women, it was very revealing. The fact that the route was designed to complete missions covertly and was dressed like a stripper or prostitute made it even more confusing. With a sigh, he started working on creating new uniforms, perhaps organizing them to display the rankings of each person in their respective route section. When Naruto looked up, he saw that it was an Akamichi, and a very slim one at that, and said, Naruto Sama. Well, in contrast to the majority of the clan's Akamichis. Even so, he was still a large man, perhaps 280 pounds, or on the lighter side of the clan. Naruto looked him in the eye and motioned for him to continue. From behind him, the man pulled a cart and pushed it by the desk. The Akamichi served Naruto dinner after he accepted the offered scroll and read it, saying, I have brought your dinner, and a message from the Hokage. With haste, Naruto penned his agreement and added his new seal of authenticity. In the 3rd exam, it seems he would be the Hokage's bodyguard. Chunin exam finals at the end of the month. Long break. On the field, 9 people were present, 8 genin and 1 junin. 10 more people, 3 kage and their guards each, were up in the cage box. The Raikage, accompanied by his guards Karabi, Yugito, and Darui, was on the far right. The Kage and his 2 cloaked guards were sitting in the middle seat, observing the field with composure. The Hokage and his 2 guards are then seen on the far left, with Namikaze Naruto to his right and Namiyashi Reito, a Junin best known for his facial scars, to the right. Naruto ignored the elder Kage's speech as it was being delivered, showing no interest in the whole "We are honored to have you here" spiel. He cast a sidelong glance at the Kage and his 2 guards, but it was evident to him that 4 chakra signatures were present. Following the conclusion of the Hokage's rousing speech, Sasuke and Temari stayed on the field. When Sasuke used a moderately powerful, Great Fireball Jutsu to start things off, he was met with a more powerful Wind Scythe Jutsu, which caused the flames to grow larger and hotter and forced Sasuke to use a replacement jutsu to escape unscathed. Regretfully, Temari anticipated this and employed an additional Wind Scythe Jutsu, sending Sasuke hurtling into the wall and causing several gashes on his arms. Temari made the decision to end the fight there, using a swift body flicker to thrust her open fan before stopping before she could decapitate a barely conscious Sasuke and winning the match. While he was engaged in clearing debris from beneath his fingernails, Naruto abruptly and accidentally severed his nail. He channeled a tiny amount of Kyuubi chakra to his fingernail and healed it with an unsaid curse. When Shino, a teammate, and Hyuga Neji were also called out for their match, Naruto became alert. Naruto turned to face the Hyuga box in the stands to see how the clan chief was feeling about the battle. Naruto grinned, noticing a frown on the Hyuga's face that gave the impression that he was concerned that the Aburame was better than them. What does the defeat of the Hyuga prodigy by the Aburame clan heir suggest about the other members of the clan? Shino leapt back as the match was about to begin and threw a volley of shuriken at the Hyuga. Sino sent a wide wave of Kikachu beetles and Neji ducked to the right. In order to avoid the smaller group of Kikachu, Neji leapt back, activated his Byakugan mid jump, and changed course, landing in some looser ground. As soon as Shino sent his Kikachu to encircle Neji, they started to flock together. A loud cry of "Kaden" was followed by the appearance of a sizable chakra sphere. Shino was grinning behind his high collar as the Kaden abruptly stopped, leaving Neji unconscious on the ground. When Shino was announced as the winner, Naruto cheered for his partner. "Naruto, I do believe I sensed enough chakra in young Neji to continue. What did your teammate do exactly?" The Hokage leaned back to ask. Naruto grinned and gestured for fire ants in response. The elder Hokage grinned and turned back to the matches when Naruto nodded. "Ingenious, another gift from your friend I suppose?" Inuzuka Kiba and Subaku no Kankuro, the next competitors, entered the field and took their places at the starting line. Kankuro gave up before the proctor could start the match, saying that Kiba had a bigger advantage with his Ninken because they could move and fight separately as well as together. Gaara moved to the field in the sand style body flicker and waited for his opponent, thinking that Naruto would be a great way to prove his existence, but Genma had other ideas. Kiba was declared the winner by forfeit. Subaku no Gaara vs Nara Shikamaru will be the next match due to a genin dying in his training, another being hospitalized, and a third one proving himself to be Junin material in the 1-month training period. Shikamaru was about to give up the match when he somehow stumbled over the railing and onto the field, where a cloud of sand attacked the Nara who had moved just in time to avoid being crushed. With a very sullen expression on his face, Gaara threw over half of his sand to crush the slothful genin. Said genin leapt back, ran into the pocket of trees, and took a seat to think, though the sand tearing through the trees only gave him 5 seconds at most. The trees were strewn across the field, and Shikamaru, with a curse, ducked out of them and back into the clearing. There were trees everywhere, so Shikamaru glanced around the field to take in his new surroundings. Gaara then threw as much sand as she could after the genin, saying, "Nara, I will enjoy tearing you apart for mother. Then I'll destroy this village for taking my prey from me." At last, his sand managed to capture the shadow user, and just as he raised his hand to deliver the final blow, he became immobile. He noticed that he was standing in a shadow next to the tree, and he surmised that this shadow was linked to his target. Shadow Possession Jutsu, success. He then gradually made Gaara make some hand gestures, and Shikamaru fell to the ground as a result of the sand falling. The sand that was floating in the air began to descend as he then made Gaara make one last sign. What was Gaara asking? How? Shikamaru raised his hand, forcing Gaara to raise his, and spoke again, saying, "I studied your hand signs while you trained a couple of times. It was troublesome, but I figured that if I trained my shadow possession enough I could in fact control smaller movements rather than general movements like walking." The civilians began to jeer at the Nara clansman, Proctor. "San. I forfeit the match, I used up too much chakra with those last few moves." However, the Raikage began to clap, which was followed by the Kazekage and the Hokage. Even though only the shinobi realized how well the Nara performed, the crowd began to cheer for him when they saw that the Kages, the greatest of the best, were praising him. The judges also noted their evaluations of the two genin until the arena floor abruptly began to swirl around Gaara, grinding down into sand and convergent onto her now drowsing form. "Nara. This isn't over." Playing possum jutsu. As if kicking up some dust. Finally, the cloud cover parted, revealing a massive figure. A nearby Chunin called out, "Ichibi." Just before everyone noticed white feathers dropping from the sky. Pandemonium broke out as Sand and Sound shinobi began attacking Konohanin, and some civilians turned out to be shinobi as well. A large group of shinobi were able to enter the village through a breach caused by giant snake summons attacking the walls. The Ichibi let out a yell of joy and unleashed a torrent of sand at the Kazekage, knowing that the gold dust the man was using would work against him. After deciding that the battles going on around him were far more interesting, he went on a rampage. He succeeded in crushing his lower body and was pleased with the outcome. After destroying a portion of the stands, which housed all of the live targets, he proceeded to the village to cause as much damage as possible before departing. He detected the chakra of the fox. A loud cry of summoning jutsu erupted as he entered a sizable clearing between the village and the stadium, and a large red toad wearing a coat, tanto, and large pipe materialized. A strangely dressed man with white hair perched atop its head. The toad then lunged forward, taking the tanuki by surprise and slicing off a portion of his neck, while Jiraiya leapt to the red-haired boy's position and applied a suppression seal, which caused the sand to fall to the ground. I'm sure you're all aware that it's Jiraiya. After capturing Gaara, the man called forth a large toad to protect the child before hurriedly escaping to battle the snake summons. The large toad then vanished. Just prior to the assault. After praising the young Nara's brilliance, the three Kage sat down, and Naruto watched. I must thank you, Hokage. Dono, I was afraid that my village would put down such a promising shinobi, said the Hokage, who was the first to speak. The Kage nodded in agreement, then heard Nara yell loudly, it is no problem, Hokage. Dono, I have seen what such a reaction in a competition like this can do to a shinobi. The Kage repositioned his hat, the three Kages turned back to the arena where the Ichibi was forming, and a moment later, white feathers were visible to all. A genjutsu like that had no effect on the Kage and their guards. The Kage was about to speak when the Ichibi's sand attacked him. The two Suna shinobi abruptly transformed into four shinobi and jumped to the building's corners as the other two Kages, along with their individual guards, including the Kage, leapt up onto the roof. The shinobi were suddenly protected by a purple barrier and a purple box, and 5 massive snakes appeared out of nowhere, consuming the Kage's bodyguards. Only for one of the snakes to be sliced through with a katana before they passed through the barrier, and the other snakes were eventually freed. Orochimaru then slithered out of the rooftop, holding the Kage's hat, saying, it seems as though you have a very powerful Junin with you. Sarutobi. Sensei. Naruto waved his hand and rubbed the back of his neck, pretending to be shy. Yes, Naruto. Kun is much more powerful than you could ever hope to be. Then came the Hokage. You seem a little too confident in the presence of two Kages and a very powerful Junin. Why wouldn't I? Especially since I have become immortal. You finished it. Naruto gave Orochimaru the finger and chuckled slightly. Yes, Sarutobi. Sensei, I have finished my immortality project. I can now live long enough to complete my goals of finding the world's secrets. 3 coffins emerged from the rooftop. A third attempted to rise but failed, sinking once more. Sensei, Orochimaru growled. It seems your warrior has lost his mind. I believe this should quiet him down, summoning impure world reanimation. Orochimaru. How dare you use such a jutsu? Even Tobirama. Sensei hated this jutsu. The first and second Hokages of Konoha emerged from the 2 coffins as the immortal said, Oh Sensei, it is simply amusing to see you still trying to put morality into my mind. Unfortunately, an immortal such as myself doesn't need morals. Hashirama. Sama. Tobirama, Sensei. Hiruzen. Kun. Saru. Kun. The Hokage took a small step forward. Naruto grinned as Orochimaru inserted tags into the Hokage's heads and pulled out his katana. If we are going to be fighting one-on-one, I believe I should go up against a Naidame as I'm the fastest in the elemental nation so far. Sarutobi, I recommend you fight and put your student down, and Naruto. Try not to get us killed. The Sandame called forth King Enma and forced him to change into the adamantium staff, while the Hokage charged his lightning armor. Orochimaru took a stance and pulled out his Kusanagi sword. After a brief period of silence, the shinobi vanished from view as the Ichibi crashed its way out of the arena. The first to clash were the Hokage and the Naidame, who split up as soon as they were unable to gain the upper hand. The Hokage simply increased the flow of his chakra and vanished, only to reappear with his bicep passing through the Nidaime's neck. So you are the Hokage, the Shodem said, as the roof abruptly transformed into a forest. This will be interesting. I'm the fastest man alive. I will not fall today. In an attempt to avoid the small water globes, the Hokage rolled to the left and dove. Water release, water bullet jutsu. Then fired again at Naidame, who had recovered. He then released the chakra to suit his affinity, allowing it to pass through his legs and into the floor with the words, "Lightning release, electromagnetic murder." After making more hand signals and jumping, the Night Aim was kneed in the chest, elbowed in the temple, and kicked in the abdomen. The man was then grabbed by the Hokage and held over the Nidaim's head while he was in the air. Then he launched them down the cage using a branch that was close to the ceiling. Liger Bomb. The Hokage waited a patient moment to see if that was all there was to the revived cage's upper body destruction. Regrettably, it wasn't, because the man with the white hair instantly rearranged himself, attached some explosive tags to himself, grabbed the Hokage's arm, and was ready to detonate the explosive when he realized he was holding a branch. Phew. The Night Aim was about to say something, but the blasts that kept happening destroyed the ceiling tag in his head. When Tobirama realized he was free, he released the jutsu and was dispelled, causing the battered remnants of Asuna Chunin to fall to the ground. The Hokage let out a growl and then positioned himself to offer assistance when required. Alongside Hashirama and Naruto. "I wish you good luck, Junin." San. Twitch. "Are you going to say anything?" Twitch. The Shodem Hokage sobbed as he curled into a ball and traced circles in the ground. "I guess I'm not good enough for a Junin like yourself to speak with." A cry of "wood release, nativity of a world of trees" caused a large portion of the roof to turn into a forest, and Naruto had to avoid getting impaled on several branches so he could fight with all of his might. Naruto relaxed his guard in confusion before hearing this. He then used a jutsu he had learned in Danzo's personal library and went through some of his own hand seals. He exclaimed, "Wind release, vacuum sphere." Shots of wind were unleashed at the wood user from inside his head, only to dreadfully miss since there was no tongue to direct the chakra. Sadly, the Senju felt it appropriate to make fun of the boy. Naruto only smiled politely as he nicked his finger on his katana and raised his release command into the air. "Ha ha ha, are you really a Junin? If so, I hope it wasn't because of your skill in ninjutsu." Ha ha ha. Massacre, Jashin. Sen. He sliced through the blood, taking on the form of the Hollow. His cloak made of bone clanked dully, and he noticed something new. The sword he had received from Odayaka was fastened to his hip. The chains that were still fastened to his arms clanked in their new, bone-like shape as he laid his naginata on his back. Speak to the legend, he turned his Chinogashiki onto the man. "Allow myself to introduce myself. My name is Namikaze fucking Naruto, Hollow Reaper of Jashin Sama, and the bad-ass Anbu commander of the Konoha Root Forces. I'm also a mute, you fucktard. A Reaper then. It's been a while since I had battled one. Though not a Hollow Reaper, and not of Jashin." Naruto cried out in a joyful laugh, "Hokage Sama. Forgive me, but I'll have to sacrifice your soul to Jashin Sama now." The Senju had built a wooden dome to protect itself from the Ballas. "Sero motherfucker. Ha ha ha." The cage materialized behind Naruto, emerging from a tree, and stabbing him in the side and right through to his stomach as a red orange blast tore down the barrier and struck a wood clone. If he was taken aback when Naruto fired a bala at him through his cloak, he didn't show it as the hole in his abdomen healed. "It would seem you lose." Then, with a frown, Naruto caught a particle that was attempting to return to Hashirama. Fuck. He crushed the particle and watched the dust return to the god of shinobi. No blood. Would this work, Jashin Sama? Since he was unable to draw blood or connect with his soul, unconventional tactics would be required for this battle. He had to destroy a wooden spear quickly with some ballast and then draw his naginata. He charged in, thrusting forward, which the Senju avoided by bending backward and then struck out with a kunai, but the armor made of rib bones stopped it. Hashirama was knocked back when Naruto swung at him and struck him with the butt end of his naginata. Never noticing Naruto's smirk, Hashirama stood and silently unlocked a large sword from a seal on his armor. He then dashed in quickly, impaling Naruto through the abdomen and lifting him up into a tree. Hashirama turned away to join Tobirama in his battle against the Hokage, but was halted when a Sero went through his head. Naruto went limp and was left impaled by a sword to a tree. When the Hokage jumped down into the scene and took the sword from Naruto, allowing him to fall to his feet where he collapsed to the ground, Naruto was hanging off the tree with his hand burned off from the stronger-than-average Sero. Tsunova. Naruto's speech was interrupted when his hollow mode vanished, making his prosthetic tongue vanish as well. When the Hokage turned him over, he saw that the exit wound had severed most of the spine and passed straight through. When Naruto witnessed Hashirama stand up, he caused the snake to seal, attacking the Hokage with a wooden spear and stabbing him in the side. Naruto observed the Hokage being battered around the small forest for the next 10 minutes. Though he was aware that the Shoden was revered as a god in the shinobi arts, this was beyond his wildest expectations. The man was nearly as fast as the Sonito, and he punctured his spine, which hurt a lot and took a long time to heal. He paid the price for his arrogance. Having counted on his immortality, he was now helpless until his wounds healed. It would be Konoha's fault if he lost such a powerful ally. What would have happened if the old man, Yari, or even Enko had been the one fighting while he was incapacitated? At that moment, Naruto made the decision to train more diligently than before. He would stop sparring with opponents and employ more ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu while dodging attacks. Well, that last bit was untrue, but the idea is what really matters. Then he saw that the Hokage, whose name he did not know, was on the ground and about to be stabbed with a wood-made sword. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Before the Hokage perished, a massive conflagration emerged, melting the Shoden and the sealing kunai, courtesy of the Sandaime Hokage. The Shoden laughed as he approached Naruto after reorganizing and raising his hands to indicate he would not be fighting anymore. The Senju knelt down and rolled Naruto over, much to his annoyance and the amusement of the Sandaime. Well, Naruto-san, it seems you are lucky indeed with this ability to survive. Now if I'm right, I probably destroyed your spine, but seeing as you have finally managed to sit up, I believe you can regenerate, correct? Hashirama's hands glowed green. I guess I'll hurry up and heal your spine. Konoha will need someone like you if a missing nin can use this technique. Hashirama. Sensei, I would like to ask you to remain for a few days and help with repairs. Of course you would have to be disguised as a medical ninja as you are the best in the world. Not even Tsunade Chan can contest against you, and she currently holds the title Best Medic. Yes, of course I will, especially after seeing such passion in this one's eyes. Well, also, where is my granddaughter? I believe you had promised to train her. The elder Senju paled at the thought of a third war, and the knowledge that his precious granddaughter was out and about in the world, saying, she left, as she couldn't take the emotional stress she was going through, and now she is a drunken gambler wandering from town to town. Though she still had Shizune Kato, who would have been her niece in law before her fiancé died in the Third War. The Hokage asked the Sarutobi, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I must know how your battle with Orochimaru went. It didn't go the way I had expected it to, but I had managed to ruin the chakra flow in his arms. Battle of Orochimaru and Sarutobi. Chakra levels rose to the point where most experienced Chunin passed out from chakra exhaustion when teacher and student clashed. They traveled at such a fast pace that the onlookers outside the barrier could only make out blurs of them. During their 10-minute battle, neither of the two shinobi spoke. Instead, the sounds of blades colliding, staffs being thrown, and kicks being mixed together were all that were audible. Even the large vegetation that appeared midway through the taijutsu-kenjutsu match did not manage to divert their attention. A tremendous surge of power emerged from the middle of the small forest, signaling the end of their physical competition. Summoning Jutsu. Feasting of the Viper. An enormous viper lunged towards the older man, but he repelled it with his own jutsu. With the command, Earth Release, Earth Dragon Bullet. He conjured up a stone dragon that was only marginally larger than the snake in front of him. He unleashed his Earth Dragon, which killed the snake and dispelled its body, by shooting it straight down the snake's throat and out of its tail a moment later. The elderly man had called forth a shadow clone during that time, and they were both using distinct hand signals. The original spit out 6 big mud balls and hurled them directly at the snake user, exclaiming, Earth Release, Mud Bullets. Who had called forth a wall of mud and leapt clear of the wall to evade the dragon from before, but he noticed the approaching mud bullets and created a new wall of mud. Only for the other clone to apply self-defense techniques. The clone then extinguished as he fired 6 extremely hot fireballs that collided with the mud bullets and produced magma. Fire Release. Phoenix Flower Fireball Jutsu. This demonstrates one of the numerous reasons Sarutobi Hiruzen was and is feared in the elemental nations, his capacity to precisely combine elements to create sub-elements, just like a bloodline wielder. Then Orochimaru's wall was struck by the magma bullets. The wall held the first two before the third shot destroyed it, and the last three struck Orochimaru. Only to have Orochimaru replaced with a log that had been gathered from the nearby forest. Then, Orochimaru emerged from under the roof and swung the Kusanagi blade, but King Enma's adamantium staff deflected it. To get some distance, Hiruzen and Orochimaru leapt backward. "Well, this is fun, sensei. I almost miss our spars. Unfortunately, we seem to be evenly matched, though that isn't going to matter soon enough. Your Junin and the Raikage cannot defeat the Shodem or Nidaime Hokage. They are even more powerful than even you." Orochimaru chuckled at the older man's grim. "I'm sorry, Orochimaru, but it seems as though I will not be able to kill you today. I myself will admit that I'm not up to par with how I used to, and while I would like to think that my experience would make up for it. But no matter, you will not leave today in victory, as I am still the god of Shinobi, the Sandaime Hokage." That was the only warning Orochimaru received before the Sandaime vanished and then reappeared, this time in the glowing yellow form of Enma's staff. In a panic, Orochimaru raised his blade to block the Sandaime attack with the staff's other end, which was beneath Sannin's snake arms, only to see that it was a jutsu. Enma exclaimed from the staff, "Sage art, removal of the unnatural force," before changing back into his monkey form. But this time, there was a sense of peace all around him. Orochimaru would have noticed that Enma was in sage mode if he hadn't been in such excruciating pain. The shinobi holding it up cancelled the jutsu and collected the Sannin before hurried off, but not before Hiruzen kicked Orochimaru in the chest, sending him into the barrier. The monkey took a moment to process his summoner's words before responding, "You can go now, Enma. Kun. Good luck, Hiruzen." He then wished himself well in healing from the minor wounds the Kusanagi had caused him. After racing to the closest explosion in the middle of the forest, Hiruzen arrived to witness the Raikage being ponged around the roof. He proceeded rapidly through the required hand signals, finishing just in time to prevent the Raikage from dying. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.